Hello everyone, welcome back for another Fire Emblem video. This time it's gonna be a little bit different than my normal summoning videos. Wanted to take this time, the new year, to kind of look back on 2020 and see kind of what my favorite units are in Fire Emblem Heroes so far. I have this split up into like two little categories. The first one's gonna be units that I've built up in the past but have changed their builds or have done something new and something different than before. And the other little category are completely new units I've built up that I've never used before. I've been playing the game since launch, so there's a lot of units that I've built and used, but these are just a few of my favorite ones that I have used a lot consistently. So first up is my very first 5-star, or very first unit that I promoted to 5-star, which is female-based Corrin. This is my current build with her. It's when the game first came out and I forgot enough feathers to promote some of the 5 stars, I was looking for kind of a more supportive unit. As you can see, her base weapon used to be Dark Breath, which kind of like it's pretty similar to her current perf weapon, which is her Gloom Breath. But back then, before skill inheritance, you would have to look at characters' base kits, and Corrin came with Dark Breath, I think Seal Res, and also Hone Attack. And so based off those skills alone, I tried building her as a support unit where she would just debuff and also buff up your teammate's attack, which I felt was super useful back then. But then everything changed when skill inheritance came out. You'd see every dragon running Lightning Breath from a Noe or a Doltiki, and this encounter would be everywhere. It was just a nice option for everyone to use, but now I'm using her as more. So for that period of time, I used her as a range tank, or sorry, a melee tank that could take on range foes such as archers and maybe the occasional red mage. Her res is still pretty bad, so it's not the best for tanking mages, but it can work if they're red. Now though, I'm kind of resorted her back to a mixture of both of those roles. With her Gloom Breath, she's really good at debuffing enemies. The thing is, like with the double threaten, it just requires a lot of positioning on their part, and you're not always going to be within 2 spaces of an enemy at the start of your turn, so it's a little bit unreliable in that sense. But it's pretty consistent. There is no res check or HP check as in like poise and sudden or sabotage skills. But she still does her job nowadays. And with the refine, it's super nice for to help her boost up her damage with the attack debuff. It's like Saizo Star, where she takes the penalties on the foe and makes them her bonuses, which is really nice. But
my sacred blade contains the love of everyone I've fought for, even of those I've fought with.
So like with her current stat line and her skill kit, she doesn't quite have a great role in the current meta. Her speed and defense are decent at best at this point. 34 speed, 34 defense. That used to be a lot better than what it is now. She can still take on red units pretty well with quick riposte, but with that 40 speed, she's not going to be doubling anyone anytime soon, so I had to give her quick riposte. I mean, the best in slot would be Dragon's Ire, but we don't all have that. So I'm just working with quick riposte. In terms of the future though, I'm not exactly sure what kind of builds I might give for her, but for now, she does her job, and hopefully if she gets her Resplendent sometime soon in the future. If she does, I'm definitely gonna shut a little bit of money and just get that real quick. She's one of those units where she needs kind of every single stat point. I mean, that's with a lot of Gen 1 units too, because they need all the stats they can get. They've fallen so far behind in the power creep meta. And especially with her attack, she has 27 base attack with a super boon to 31. That super boon is very necessary. Very, very necessary for her to do damage. Next up, I have one of my favorite villains in the game is Berkut. Along with Corrin, they both got their refines around the middle of this year, and they were mainly they were the main reasons why I kind of came back to the game. Before then, I kind of had a hiatus for a few months, starting around maybe like March on Fire Emblem. I just kind of lost interest in playing the game, but I still logged on every once in a while for the login bonuses. But after the refines came out, both Berkut and Corrin, they're both some of my favorite units. So seeing them get refines made me so happy and so excited for builds I could give them. And with Berkut's lance, or not Berkut's lance, his new lance, is Dark Royal Spear. It's just a better version of Berkut's lance, and it's more universal and useful. I just kind of wish that they also gave him +5 speed. I mean, it's not gonna do that much to help him.
I will need it.
Like, he has 28 speed, but it would bring him up to a 33 speed level, which is decent enough to avoid getting doubled by some units. He won't be doubling anyone anytime soon, obviously, but I feel like it would help him a little bit more, make him a better unit. But it is what it is. I'm still happy with the refine he got. And having low attack defense is super nice because that helps him tank a little bit more and do a little bit more damage. The thing is, though, it kind of sucks because I kind of gave him low attack defense before the refine came out. I might have killed the normal Dimitri to give him low attack defense. I know that the -3 attack and defense does stack, however, it would be kind of wasting the second part of the low attack defense skill, which is neutralizing their bonuses for attack and defense. So I kind of just resorted back to giving him Quick Riposte. I had it in his seal slot before, but now I guess that opens up the seal for other units that need it. Before, I ran a Vanguard build on him to make him kind of more of a mixed tank. Like, yes, I could have used Berkut's lance, but I wanted to specialize a little bit more into defense just to make sure he can still tank both sides. That's kind of like the problem with like rounded units and trying to have them do too much at once. Is that I still want to focus enough onto him so that he can actually do his job, if that makes sense. I don't think they've given any resplendence to BHB units or GHB units, I mean, but if they do, I really hope Berkut does get a resplendent, because I think he's also another unit that really needs all the stats he can get to make him more useful and more balanced. I previously had my summoner support on him, which put him at a decent level of HP and all his defensive stats, but you'll see soon that I have a new character that I put my summoner support on. Next up we have Fallen Berkut, another Berkut character, but as you can tell, I really love Berkut. Right now he doesn't have a seal slot, but I usually switch that around for maybe the normal fortress defense res skill to get more bulk, but sometimes I give him a solo skill because of Flowing Lance. So what Flowing Lance does is that it's like a low attack defense with a solo condition, but it's like a low attack defense 5 skill, I guess, if that makes sense. It's super useful for making a unit more tanky, and with Fortress Defense Res 3, he has pretty substantial bulk. With factoring in Flowing Lance, he has essentially 51 defense and 53 res, which is very, very nice. As you can see, I still need more flowers, and I need one more merge. I summoned a few of them this year during his revival banner, I think. It was around maybe... I don't remember when it was, but it was sometime in the middle of the year when I came back after my hiatus. I had some orbs, and I tried to get the last few copies. So now I hope that whenever he comes back, I can manage to snipe that one last copy of him. It's been a project that I've been wanting to merge up to +10. As you can tell from my previous videos, I've had 2 summoning sessions for Fallen Berkut, and they've not necessarily gone well, but they haven't gone that bad either. I'm still happy by getting 10 Berkuts eventually. It's a lot of orbs, but I greatly enjoy using him as a unit. I took away his perf lance just because it's a little too niche for me. I kind of said before that it's good to have a specialization, but in terms of his weapon, I feel like it makes him a little bit too specialized in a sense that he can only fight range units basically. And I wanted him to be more of a universal tank. He's not necessarily killing them on return, especially with that 51 attack after the fortress defense res, but it's still, I'd rather give him the flowing lance just to help him more with all units in general. And the 20 health chip damage to your nearest ally, like yes, it can be helpful for advantage strats or whatever, but I'd rather just not take the 20 damage. If I need him to do that, I will re-equip it to him, but I don't have any teams that really require that at the moment. And those are the 3 units that I kind of revamped this year, or last year in 2020, I revamped that I've used before in the past. Next we can move on to new units I built. I have 2 units on this list. They're not necessarily, this next one isn't necessarily a new unit that came out in 2020, but it's a unit that I built up this last year. After the pandemic started in quarantine, I started playing a lot of the old Fire Emblem games, and one of the games I played was Sacred Stones. And one of my favorite units in that game was Cormac, who, as you can see, currently has my summoner support. Cormac was one of the 2 flyers I used in that game. In endgame I used Tana and Cormac as my 2 flyers. And in that playthrough, Cormac got speed screwed really, really badly. He could double almost no one. But he also got blessed with attack, so with a Brave Lance, he could one-round basically every unit in the endgame. And I mean, Sacred Stones isn't a particularly hard game, but still. And with this build, he also has Flowing Lance like Fallen Berkut. It just makes him a really good tank in general. That extra 5 bulk essentially and 5 more attack helps him do more damage as well. I also have him with Noontime just to help heal him a little bit because I have him with Fury 4, so that's a lot of chip damage. However, he will be taking little to no damage from most units. 51 defense, effectively 56, and the 39 effectively 44. The res is a little bit low, but I have other skills that can help patch that up a little bit. I have Wyvern Flight. Wyvern Flight came on Melody on the recent, well not recent anymore, but I think it was Binding Blade banner, yeah. It's super helpful in debuffing the enemy attack and defense even more. And with his 47 speed, most units are going to be debuffed. And with his defense, he'll be at least taking a few points off their attack, if not all 7. With the maximum being -7. But whether it's at the max or not, it'll still be a few extra points of bulk that can help Cormac survive a little bit more. And I also have him with attack speed rain that I killed the Brave Claude for both attack speed rain and Fury 4. Sorry. I love Claude, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do when you build up your favorite units. And with attack speed rain, that's another -4 attack and -4 speed on the foe. I know that -4 speed does not affect or does not play into the fact with Wyvern Flight. Wyvern Flight only takes in visible stats, but this 4 speed is nice for helping Cormac maybe double. With his 47 speed, he doesn't necessarily double everything, because there's a lot of fast red swords units out there. There's so many of them out there. And so essentially with this build, what I'm trying to go for is just, you can already tell that Cormac is tanky, but when you factor in the optimal conditions and all the debuffs, or the non-visible debuffs he gives on the enemy, he becomes dramatically tankier. So that is a total of, at optimal conditions, he has, that's 5, 12, and 16. He has 16 extra bulk essentially in both defense and res, with the optimal conditions. So it's just a super nice way to tank things and kind of get through maps. He won't be killing anyone necessarily. He won't be killing range foes necessarily because he doesn't have distant counter. He has Fury instead. But even from archers, he takes very little damage, if at all. He honestly takes more damage from Fury than the enemies themselves. I have thought about switching off of Fury for something else. However, for Wyvern Flight, I kind of want the visible stats for it to work. I do have attack defense solo 4 from Melody when I inherited Wyvern Flight, but it's like a give or take if I want more actual stats, whether compared to if I want to debuff the enemy. But in most cases, Fury 4 works out better, I think. As you can tell, I really like building up blue units. Those past 4 units were all blue units. However, this last unit is not a blue unit. One of the features of my previous summoning videos during the past year was Summer Sylvain. Sylvain is one of my favorite units from Three Houses, for several reasons. He's also fairly easy to recruit in the games when you play as a female professor. He just joins you immediately. But still, I think he has a very interesting character, and depending on his supports, he has very good character growth and development, I feel. Overall, he's just an interesting character that I really like. And seeing him on the summer banner made me really want to summon him, and I'm really glad that he was a 4-star demote. Although he doesn't have a fancy perf weapon like Ingrid or Byleth, it just made him a lot easier to summon into +10. I am very lucky to manage to get enough and more copies of him, so if I need to, I can fodder him off. With his build, I have thought many times of what weapon to give him. I currently don't have anything better than Melon Float. I have considered giving him Halloween La Rochelle's Fury Tome, but that requires me to summon her, and I did not summon for her this past Halloween, so I have to wait a while for her to come back. But I think Melon Float still works out fairly well. The 5 attack and 5 res, along with the healing, then the first combat of each phase is really nice. It's just not super consistent, but when you think about it though, most units aren't going to see multiple battles during each phase, unless you're using them as an enemy tank, and in this case, I am not using Sylvain as an enemy phase tank. I am using him in Ether Raid's defense, so that means he will likely only be doing 1 combat before he dies. So having that 5 extra attack and res is nice for the first combat. Along with attack speed push 4, he'll have I can't do math. He'll have 52 speed and 61 attack. I can't do math right now. And then with the lull speed res 3, he'll get 3 more to each of those. And with Rouse attack defense, if he is alone at the start of turn, he'll get another 6 attack. So he'll be doing a good number on the enemy if he is able to get the first hit off without dying. And if he doesn't die after the first hit, he will double them and do another big hit. And with his 49 HP and his decent defense, he likely won't be getting 1-rounded unless it's by a stronger red mage or say an Altina who 2-shots him. Right now I have Mystic Boost running on him, but that's just for general content where I want to sustain, because having the 7 health from Melon Float and then the 6 health from Mystic Boost, it gets me 13 health and then -5 from attack speed push 4, so it gets net 8 HP every time he attacks with the first combat in each phase. That's really nice, but I usually run maybe attack speed solo on him, or a Swift Sparrow seal. It usually just depends on the situation and what I need him to do. And previously, when I first summoned him, I also ran Sandwiches Plus on him. I ran a close counter Vantage build on him. He did his job, but he wasn't quite tanky enough to, or he didn't hit quite hard enough sometimes to justify the Vantage build. Especially with the range cav BST, what's the word? I guess like the lower BST he has for being a ranged cav is that his stats aren't super high. But I'm glad they made him the way they did with kind of with 32-35, I believe, are his stats. I don't remember exactly, but that sounds about right. I'm glad they kind of not necessarily min-maxed him, but distributed his stats in an offensive manner, I guess is the way to put it. So he still is usable. And with this build and that full investment, he's a great unit to use in AR defense. I've gotten a good amount of wins because of him and my other cav units sniping the enemy out of. So overall, he is one of my favorite units in the game, and I'm really glad I managed to pull a +10 version of him. And those are kind of my, I guess, top 5 units that I've built up in this last year, or I've modified their builds to update them a little bit. Let me know down in the comments below what units that you made in the last year, and maybe let me know or leave me suggestions for what kind of units I should build next. Currently, I'm working on New Year's Caden, but after that, I don't have really any motivation to develop any specific unit, so let me know, and I'll try my best to build a unit. Thanks for watching, see you guys next time.